Nakul gets embarrassed when he finds out that his retired mother Priyamvada is pregnant again when it's his age to marry. This creates tension in his relationship with his girlfriend Renee. There's a prayer meeting in the Kaushik household, and Baljit is getting late to attend it. Her help skipped work that day, and she had to do the dishes. Priyamvada's younger son Gular manages to escape the crowd with his headphones. Nakul is not so lucky, since Priyamvada emotionally blackmails him to help her. Priyamvada offers refreshments, while Nakul reluctantly organizes a bingo game for the ladies. Apparently, that's just his luck. Priyamvada urges him to read out the numbers with more enthusiasm. Meanwhile, a married lady keeps flirting with him. He uses popular references to read out the numbers, and the lady assures him she has 69. He ignores her and continues with the numbers till Baljit wins the prize. Priyamvada offers her liquid soap as a gift, but she wants soda instead. Everyone actually takes the time to argue about it. Nakul gets a call from someone who wants to meet him right away. He's buying flowers to meet Renee's mother, Sangeeta, that night. They have been dating for a while, and Renee assures him it's a casual meeting with Sangeeta. Renee makes him buy wine instead, which Sangeeta loves. Sangeeta asks Nakul to not be shy about having drinks with her. He's worried about drinking before driving to pick his dad up. He clarifies that he stays in Lodi Colony, and his dad is a ticket inspector in the Northern Railways. Nakul is required in America for on-site work, but he hasn't discussed that with his family yet. Sangeeta is sure they'll be happy for him, but Nakul knows his mom wants everyone to stay together as a family in India. Even he finds it hard to stay away from home for long. Sangeeta sure isn't happy about this, but she asks him to visit again. She asks what the sign on his car with his surname means. She wonders if people put it for fun. She's judging him for it, and he knows that. Nakul feels his brother put up the sign in a weird font, probably to convey how spooky their family is. Nakul's father, Jitender, asks his helper, Ravinder, to plan a child properly. He feels the newer generation doesn't respect their folks, so it's important. He's mad at Nakul for being late. Nakul tries to tip Ravinder for his help, but Jitender is miserly and feels one mango is enough for him. That has to hurt. Their car is over a decade old, and Jitender also doesn't let him buy a new one. Let's hope they have a plan to live their lives. While the Kaushiks enjoy the mangoes, Priyamvada wonders why Nakul is always on the phone with the same woman. Jitender feels she should let Nakul live and focus on Gular's studies instead. Gular is trying to find some cash while they discuss him and how useless he is. He's apparently not doing well in his studies and refuses to have their mangoes. Jitender's mother, Durga Devi, blames Priyamvada for his behavior. She thinks Priyamvada shouldn't have left Katauli to go to her house in Meerut when she was pregnant with Gular. She feels the water in her city is cursed and quotes some scriptures to prove her point. Well, that's a convincing argument. Priyamvada feels Durga views her as a witch and thinks her son, Jitender, is perfect in every way. She walks off to her room in anger, while Jitender asks Durga to be nicer to Priyamvada. Durga feels he should assert himself more and not be so scared of his wife. Nakul rants about Aunt Chawla's daughter-in-law trying to flirt with him. He insists he made it clear he has no interest in her. His friends think he made a mistake because they find her hot. Gentle reminder, she is married. Junaa thinks Nakul chickened out, so Nakul shows everyone a photo of Junaa's ex, Dimple. It's clear she seems happy with her new husband. Junaa is offended they're making fun of him, but Nakul hugs him and entertains the other guys at Junaa's expense. When they're alone, Jitender shows Priyamvada a poem of his that got published in a magazine. They read it out together, and he praises her for how great she looks. Isn't that sweet? 19 weeks later, Nakul is trying on some clothes for his cousin Shanu's wedding in Meerut. Jitender asks him to take Priyamvada to the hospital to meet Dr. Baga since she's not feeling well. Renee asks him to change his clothes first and promises to get it billed for him. Baga feels her vitals are fine, but Priyamvada knows it's something else. She's constantly exhausted and has trouble eating anything. She is even puking, and her stomach is cramping. Baga is sure she must have eaten some junk food, which is the issue with most of his patients. Such a genius assessment. Priyamvada asks Nakul to check up on where Jitender is. When she's alone with Baga, she asks for his wife, so a woman doctor can examine her. This seems oddly suspicious. Nakul is relieved when Jitender turns up and asks him to check why Baga and his wife are examining Priyamvada. When Jitender enters the clinic, all three of them stare at him weirdly. Something happened behind closed doors. Jitender still assures Nakul that Priyamvada is fine and that they need to run some tests. He asks Nakul to leave the car keys with him and head home to his grandma. They find out that Priyamvada is pregnant. Baga's wife suggests she should decide soon if she wants an abortion since it might be too late in a few days. Priyamvada refuses to end her unborn child, even if Jitendra asks her to take time to think this through. He doesn't know if she can handle a pregnancy in her 60s, and it might be stressful for them financially too. He knows she has made up her mind, so he respects her decision about her own body and agrees to be there for her. Nakul is eager to understand what Bhaga said about Priyamvada's health. He is very concerned, but Jitendra is trying to find the right way to break the news. Good luck with that. He starts discussing the match with Gular to get him engaged too. When Nakul keeps insisting, Jitendra explains that a young guest is coming to their house. Gular doesn't understand what that means, but Nakul walks off when he realizes what's happening. At least the strategy helped. Jitendra tries to tell Durga about it and presses her legs to comfort her. Nakul is speechless and blames Gular for not sleeping with their parents a little longer so they don't have sex. Like that is a solution. Jitendra explains the situation to Durga, who is almost sleeping and feels everything happens with God's blessings. Jitendra feels that's a sign she understood and proudly assures Priyamvada he handled it. Nakul keeps staring at Jitendra with disgust in the morning and walks off without breakfast. Durga doesn't understand why Jitendra is not letting Priyamvada carry a heavy bucket. He reminds her of their conversation last night, but realizes she didn't hear anything because her hearing aid was off. Gular walks off before he can explain the situation, because he doesn't want to hear it again. Fair enough. Jitendra nervously explains that Priyamvada is expecting and gets a violent reaction from Durga. She judges them for having a kid at an age when Nakul should be thinking about his own kid. She feels they're going to embarrass the family and will be on the news soon. She taunts Jitendra for finding the time to have sex with her wife, but not for her, because that's more important right now. She even judges Priyamvada's character and feels all this happened because she still wears lipstick at her age. Priyamvada wipes it off, and Jitendra also follows her out. Priyamvada knows if Durga's legs were better, she would have announced the news to the whole society. Jitendra is sure Durga's anger must have cooled by now, but that's clearly not the case. Priyamvada is offended that Durga blamed her when Jitendra is equally responsible for the kid. Durga is still angry that, despite being a government servant, Jitendra doesn't understand the government's directive of only having 2 kids. Jitendra feels this anger doesn't suit her, but Priyamvada knows this kind of flirting led to the kid. She also asks him to turn around, because she doesn't want to get blamed for not giving Durga her medicine on time. Nakul gets a call from Renee when he's getting drunk alone, but doesn't want to explain his situation. While Jitendra gets congratulated for conceiving a child at his age, Nakul keeps hiding from his friends. They even turn up at his house, but he's never around. While men in society judge Jitendra, women are frustrated about their husbands not loving them enough. Jitendra's brother Virender is shocked to learn about their situation. Gular remembers the day he was looking around for money in the room and took the condom from his parents. He regrets taking it now and flushes it down the toilet. This is getting weirder. Priyamvada's friends congratulate her and are jealous of her situation. Nakul keeps hiding from all the aunts who gossip and his friends. Renee turns up at Nakul's place with flowers for Priyamvada and asks about her health. She informs her that Nakul hasn't been to the office all week and isn't answering his calls. Jitendra is glad to see Renee and asks about how things are at the office. Nakul doesn't want Renee around too much and makes an excuse about an urgent meeting. Priyamvada asks her to come again and really likes her. Nakul is mad at Renee for not informing him before turning up at his place. She reminds him he's ignoring her calls, so she has no option. She only knows through their boss, Vikrant, that Nakul has taken a leave for a few days. Renee feels he's just embarrassed to make her meet his family. Because everyone's assumptions are so spot on, Nakul reluctantly admits that his mother is pregnant. He's frustrated that at an age when they should get him married, they're arranging for the little kid who ride on horseback with the groom at an Indian wedding. This comparison cracks Renee up, and she can't stop laughing. There's certainly humor in the situation. When he comes back home, Priyamvada praises Renee and feels she's very sweet. She's also worried Nakul won't be able to make it to Shanu's wedding since he has taken leaves from the office that week. Jitendra insists that Nakul should come to the wedding, otherwise people will gossip. Nakul feels Jitendra should have thought about people's gossip before he impregnated his mother. Ouch, that's harsh. Gular also refuses to attend the wedding because of his exams. Jitendra doesn't let Priyamvada talk to the kids because he doesn't want to plead with anyone anymore. They meet Chawla when they arrive in Meerut for the wedding. Everyone is excited about them, and Virender seeks Jitendra's approval for the decorations. He asks his sister, Gudan, to greet them too. Gudan is hurt that Nakul and Gular didn't turn up for the wedding and feels no work should be more important than their sister's wedding. This could surely be argued. The others ask her to not stress during her daughter's wedding, and she invites them in for tea. As the wedding celebrations begin, Nakul works hard at his office. When he learns there's no one at Renee's place, he quickly packs up so he can spend some time alone with her. Jitender still flirts with his wife from a distance and feels she looks very radiant. Nakul helps Renee with grocery shopping and keeps trying to spend time with her. When they're finally alone in the room, he can't perform. He's thinking of his parents having sex. Well, that's not good. Chala informs Jitender that his son's, Sunny's ex-wife had an affair. She then divorced him, claiming that he was impotent, which destroyed his confidence. It has been 2 years since his second marriage, and he's still not able to conceive. Chala thinks Jitender should talk to Sunny because everyone respects him. Jitender is confused because he has hardly met Sunny. He realizes his reputation precedes him, and everyone respects him for having a kid at this age. At least there's a bright side. Priyamvada watches Jitender feeling on top of the world and trying to look cool and respectable with a mustache. She refuses to celebrate while she's struggling to hide her belly from the world. She asks him to shave and be considerate of how people are insulting her. Renee doesn't understand what Nakul's problem is and asks if he's embarrassed by his parents having sex. She wants to discuss this because it's affecting their relationship. She wonders if he's expecting that they will stop loving each other in their old age. She feels if his idea of marriage involves no sex when they're older, she's not interested. Renee remembers the time when she was 6 or 7 and slept between her parents since she was afraid of the dark. She used to wake up in the middle of the night and find them missing. She banged the door of the adjacent room, and her mother usually came out to comfort her. When she discussed this with Sangeeta recently, they laughed about it. Nakul finds it strange that it's so easy for women to discuss sex with their mothers. It seems like a healthy relationship. Renee thinks his problem is that he's a typical Indian man. He thinks of his mother as a goddess and forgets that she's a woman with needs. He asks Renee to put herself in his shoes and how she would feel if her mother got pregnant. She jokes about that because her dad isn't around. She hasn't told Sangeeta about this situation yet and asks Nakul to share it himself. She invites him to Sangeeta's 50th birthday party the next day. Gular asks Nakul to lend him the tuition fee Priyamvada apparently forgot to leave for him. Nakul doesn't have cash, so he asks Gular to tag along when he picks it up on the way. Gular proudly clears his tab in the canteen and promises to pay the other half later. Some school kids stop Gular and call him towards them. Renee offers cake to all her mother's guests and is glad to see Nakul. He gifts Sangeeta the flowers he got for her and compliments the party. Sangeeta credits Renee for it. She feels she's too old for a celebration like this. This could almost be awkward for Nakul. Renee asks why he's late, and he reminds her he didn't have a good excuse to get out of office. He remembers it's the day of his sister's wedding, and he hasn't even called yet. Shanu's wedding is a huge celebration where Chala's son, Sunny, has taken over the dance floor. Priyamvada and Jitender can tell he's gay, and that impotency in his straight marriages is not the problem. Priyamvada has a nice laugh at Jitender's expense too. Nakul apologizes to Shanu for not being around because of office work. She's mad at him and claims she won't come to his wedding too, but she understands and hands over the phone to Priyamvada so she can talk to him. Priyamvada feels Nakul cut the call on her and is hurt. Nakul's battery is empty, so he asks Renee to charge it for him. At least he wasn't being rude. Durga asks Shanu to be happy when she shifts to the United States after the wedding. Shanu promises to call her from there, but Durga knows she won't. She doesn't think someone who doesn't even call her in India will call her from abroad. Fair point. Jitender still causes a distraction and asks the band to start playing music, so Durga doesn't embarrass them. Renee and Sangeeta discuss the weird wedding guests at her party who emptied her wine collection. Renee feels like she can talk to her and explain Nakul's family situation. Renee thinks it's not a big deal, but Sangeeta thinks his family is being careless. She understands a moment of passion but thinks they should have taken precautions. She feels abortion was also an option, and they're embarrassing everyone by agreeing to have the baby. She knows this can cause health issues and financial strain on the family. She already judges them for being middle class and not earning enough like her. Sangeeta is worried that if Renee plans to marry into this family, she will have to take up the burden of the baby. She thinks Nakul is a good guy, but his family seems uncultured. Renee feels she's being very harsh, but Sangeeta claims she's thinking about her happiness. Sangeeta thinks the people who don't even let Nakul take a job in the US will surely interfere in Renee's life too. Just like typical Indian parents, Nakul has overheard the whole exchange since he came back to get his phone. Oh right, that was on charge. Nakul is glad he knows how much Sangeeta truly disrespects his family. He realizes he was wrong to judge his mother for being pregnant, because apparently his family is already embarrassing Sangeeta. Renee asks him to not say more since he's drunk, but Nakul needs to prove a point. He knows Sangeeta thinks of them as a middle-class family who are nosy and interfere, but he feels there's nothing wrong with a man loving his own wife. He feels the only thing Sangeeta got wrong was about him being a nice guy. He feels if he were nice, he would have stood by his parents and been happy for the baby. Well, that's an awakening we didn't expect. Nakul knows the baby will be loved no matter what because of the love he got from his parents. He's now ready to be there for his sibling and accepts it. Renee scolds Nakul for being disrespectful to her mom, but he feels she also insulted his family. Renee thinks that doesn't matter because Sangeeta was discussing this with her and not him. Nakul refuses to apologize to Sangeeta, so Renee walks off. Nakul is angry with Gular for not opening the door, but realizes someone has hit him. Gular informs him about his guy at school, Sumit Malik. Gular recalls the time Sumit him and asked him to tell his dad to behave with his mom. Gular retaliates and wonders if his dad should be porking with Sumit's mom instead. This is going way below the belt. Sumit gets offended and punches Gular. Nakul is angry, and Sumit remembers he said something similar to defend his dad that day. He makes sure Gular knows he is there for him and asks him to stop hiding. Nakul finds Sumit outside the school and asks him about the student leader, Rathi, whom he knows. He feels Rathi should have mentioned how many people Nakul beat up when he was in school. Nakul feels Sumit is inviting trouble and shows him that Gular is his brother. Sumit is scared of him because he portrays himself as a gang leader. He also puts on a convincing accent to scare Sumit enough. Nakul asks Gular to keep slapping Sumit till his cap falls off. When Gular finally hits him hard enough, they walk out in style. Great. A place where violence is celebrated. Nakul and Gular find it funny that they're wondering if they will have a baby brother or a sister. It doesn't matter to them because they're excited about accepting and loving a new sibling in their house. Junaa and his friends also finally confront Nakul after he is busy hiding. They try to celebrate with him and make the shopkeeper congratulate him for becoming a big brother again. Nakul feels Junna is a true friend for being so happy for him. He feels that's very selfless of Junna since he might never be lucky enough to get a girl he can get pregnant. How did he turn this around? Apparently he has been practicing in the mirror. Junna was not expecting him to retaliate, but Nakul takes the upper hand and claims his family can help if he needs babies. Gudan asks Virender's wife and Priyamvada to choose some saris she got for them as wedding return favors. She also gifts one to Durga and wonders if Priyamvada doesn't like her taste. They tease Priyamvada for becoming modern after staying in the big city. Gudan feels embarrassed because everyone at the wedding was talking about Priyamvada instead of the bride. They both feel Priyamvada should have thought about the family's reputation and her kids. They know Nakul and Gular are also too embarrassed to come to the wedding. They feel she's not teaching her kids enough values. Well, that is harsh. Durga stands up for Priyamvada and reminds Gudan and Virender's wife that they know nothing about values. Now that's a surprise. Durga feels values also teach people to take care of elders, but none of them have bothered to check on her even once. When she was hospitalized and sitting in her bed, Priyamvada was the one who took care of her and tended to her. She even slept with her at night. She feels none of the women even asked if Durga wanted to stay longer after the wedding as a courtesy. Durga knows Priyamvada has more value than them because she has quietly taken all their insults throughout the wedding. Priyamvada calls Jitender to calm Durga down when all her attempts fail. I mean, let her talk since she's taking her side for once. Durga is in a mood and asks why it's a crime for a husband to love his own wife. She knows the women are the kind of people who will start pestering Shanu to have a baby in a few days. Jitender requests Durga not to cause a scene and explains to the woman that she probably hasn't taken her medication yet. Since they're in tears, Jitender asks them to get some rest. Wasn't that satisfying? Durga feels her late husband never did anything right in his life. He even got Jitender engaged to Priyamvada without her approval. But she feels that's the only sensible thing he did because she's lucky to have a daughter-in-law like Priyamvada to take care of her. Really, is she saying that? Durga feels bad she hasn't praised her before this and asks Jitender to take her back home. Renee gives a presentation about Godrej's ad campaign, and Vikrant is happy with the results. Vikrant wants to take the team out for drinks to celebrate the ad campaign getting finalized. Renee makes some excuses about work, and even Nakul refuses to answer if there's some stress between them. Nakul's parents are back when he arrives home, and he hugs Priyamvada. He lets her know he's there for her. He even apologizes to Jitender, who is glad things are better between them. Jitender and Priyamvada feel happy as they watch their kids playing around in the house with Durga again. Priyamvada learns in her next checkup that the baby is healthy. A couple in the waiting room is curious about Nicool's baby. When they find out he's there with his mom for a checkup, they don't feel they're too late with their baby planning. It's funny how many strangers have their noses up in their business. Jitender is very excited about the baby and is sure it'll be a girl this time. Priyamvada wonders why Nicool doesn't go to the office with Renee anymore, but he has no answers. Renee and Nicool keep avoiding each other in the office while Nicool continues to take good care of Priyamvada at home. Even Sangeeta notices how quiet Renee seems and finds that she has slept off while stalking Nicool on social media. He tries to tell Renee he misses her, but can never type the message. Priyamvada directly asks Nicool about the fight he had with Renee. When he fills her in, Priyamvada feels he should apologize to Sangeeta. She thinks Renee is right to be angry since he insulted her mother. Nicool doesn't want anyone to think he's wrong, but Priyamvada knows there's no point in arguing. She feels Renee will move on and find someone else if Nicool doesn't make a move soon. She asks him to invite her family to their baby shower. Well, that will surely go well. Nicool thanks Sangeeta for hearing him out and apologizes profusely for the way he behaved the other day. He is embarrassed about how he spoke to her and doesn't want Renee to regret introducing him to her family. He assures her that his family has nice and simple people and hopes she forgives him by coming to the baby shower. The house is all decked up for the party, and Durga hopes she gets another grandson. Jitender just wants the baby to be healthy, no matter the gender. Priyamvada starts feeling uncomfortable, so Jitender asks Nicool to call the doctor. Sangeeta asks Renee about Nicool and knows they haven't spoken in a while. She informs Renee about meeting Nicool that day and genuinely thinks he's a nice guy. She asks Renee to call him and sort things out, which makes her excited. Nicool takes his parents to the hospital and leaves his phone behind. Since he doesn't pick up his calls, Renee decides to go to his house to find him. Their neighbors inform Renee about Nicool being in the hospital when she arrives at the house. Nicool learns that Priyamvada's water has broken, so they need to operate on her. As they all wait to hear about Priyamvada, Renee turns up at the hospital and holds Nicool's hand. They're excited to learn she has given birth to a healthy baby girl. As the nurse comes in with the baby, the whole family tears up looking at her. Priyamvada wants a selfie and asks Renee to join them as a family too. Durga suggests it's time for Jitender to get a vasectomy, or they might see more babies. She has a point. 15 months later, the baby is old enough to walk to Nicool and Renee's engagement party.